Well, the use case that we introduce in the i4 media is a very broad one. It's not a specific use case of a specific technology or family of technologies in a well-defined area. It is rather considering what is happening in a media company when they are doing what can be considered most of their business, which is addressing the coverage of current events, whether they are unexpected or expected events, planned events, for example, disasters or festival. So these are cases which are quite important and quite frequent in everyday media company operation. And so the idea was to try to see in what phases, in what steps of this workflow artificial intelligence would have played a major role in innovating and making the process as efficient as possible. So that was the idea, and since the beginning, we try to really to take into account every possible aspect in an end-to-end approach. So starting from the happening of the event and what can be all the ingredients that a production team could use to generate the content which covers the event. So a very special, a very important role has been played by the archive, because you may have, for example, content which is stored in your archive which is particularly relevant for something which is happening, and so you want to retrieve that piece efficiently from the archive and reuse it. So this is possible only if you have enough metadata, enough descriptive metadata to search the content with. And so certainly that was the main part of the use case development, but there was also a rather important part in the area of production itself, when we did experimentation with the for example, with the super resolution automatic scaling of content, which is still a way to reuse efficiently what you have got as a content producer or content provider, especially when in cases like RAI, who has got a very deep archive which spans from the late 50s of the last century to nowadays. So people who were involved in use case were mainly researchers of the R&D department of RAI. So basically, the team which I coordinated was made up of 4 to 5, sometimes 6, depending on the specific task, on the specific urgency of researchers, ranging from senior profile to, say, more junior profile, but it was mostly R&D. From time to time, when we did the evaluations, it was of course very important, but also very difficult at the same time to involve other colleagues from the operational, from the editorial department, because it was very crucial to have their opinions on the tools. Because of course, we as technologists, we may fall in love with the technology simply because it is, I don't know, very attractive and novel and interesting. But it could be completely useless if you don't have a clear idea where that technology could be exploited to serve a specific workflow, to make it more efficient or quicker or anything else. So the effort was almost completely from the R&D, but the work itself was possible because of the involvement of the other departments. Well, I think the use case itself is relevant because, as I said before, it represents uh, what basically every media company, every PSM, every broadcaster, every content producer must more or less do in their day-by-day operation. So I think it is relevant by default. As for the results, maybe it is a little bit different because some of the results were really useful and impressive. And so they even made us think to go further, maybe try to develop a component and to integrate a component in an existing system, or even maybe trying to integrate a new component in a workflow. This was, for example, the case of Visione, which is the search and retrieval system developed by CNR, our colleagues. Some other times, the components that we evaluated were really poor, not really sufficient, both from the point of view of the performance and the point of view of the relevance, to be really considered as possible innovations. So there are these two aspects. From the general point of view, I think it's very relevant because it's what everyone basically does in a media company. The results were mixed, so it depends on the specific component that we tested. Well, we've been working on many components, actually, I have to say. But I would like to stress our experience on a couple of them because I think they are mostly relevant in this, from the point of view of the of what we did. The first one is certainly the phase management framework. Phase management framework is probably the most successful one. We designed, we developed, and we integrated the phase management framework as a RAI effort. So we did the work by ourselves. As I said, we are an R&D department, so we have all the competence, all the skills to do that. And this is a true, say, an end-to-end system to build face galleries, so galleries of famous people faces. And together with this also, it is included a component for face detection that exploits the content of the gallery to annotate the content. So this is a very crucial and very strategic functionality in a modern media company workflow, because it is rather impossible for a human documentalist to annotate with precision and with accuracy every single appearance of every single famous person in every single video. So having an automation here was really crucial, and I think we succeeded in having a very good level of advance in this component. The second one is certainly the VISIONE system, which is the component developed by our colleague from CNR in Pisa. Here we didn't do any technical work. We integrated it, so we installed in our premise. We uploaded some content on it, and we experimented a lot with the search functionalities that the system provides. And we evaluated also the results of this component with our editorial and journalist colleagues. And the results were very satisfactory in the sense that the component and its functionalities are considered very important. So being able to search content by natural language without the need to have annotated the content in advance from every possible perspective is crucial, exactly because you don't have the actual resources to do that manually. So it is extremely strategic to have systems like the VISIONE system, to exploit at the maximum level the content that you have stored in your archive, or even the production that you are doing. Connected with the phase management framework, there is a functionality which we developed to address a specific need in the company, which is an emerging need. So there's the need to annotate the content by labeling faces by their apparent gender. This is a very sensitive matter, of course. We focus on developing a classification component able to associate to every appearing person, to every identified and appearing person in a video, an apparent gender. So that would be the gender that would be associated by most people who see that face, okay, without any other, let's say, extra consideration. And that, as I was saying, was addressing a specific need that the company is proposing to us. And so this is certainly an example, a very positive example of bridging what I call the operational gap. So taking one technology and making it mature and integrated enough in your workflow to be actually producing value in the value chain. That was a crystal clear example of, together with the phase management framework, of such a thing. I would finish with the super resolution network, SR-UNet, because that was, let's say, another kind of experience that showed us that not always the latest AI-based technology can be better than state of the art. So I'm not saying that SR-UNet is bad. I'm saying that what we learned from the evaluation of the SR-UNet was that evaluation itself, so the methodology with which you do the evaluation, is incredibly important. Because if you don't do the proper evaluation with the appropriate standards to do the evaluation, with the appropriate practices, with the de facto practices that are state-of-the-art in a domain, like, for example, video quality evaluation in this case, you may be wrong. You may take wrong decisions. And so that was, in a way, corroborating the approach that we wanted to have all along the project. That was not just playing with the technology, but also really assessing objectively where and how each component could give value to the use case. The challenges were many, but probably the most difficult one, the most, let's say, tricky one, was to get our editorial and journalist colleagues on board for the evaluation. Was really, we lived very hard times because as technologies is rather simple. Let's say it's rather simple to download a component, to install a container, to test it, to play with some data, and to get excited about the results. But when you get to, when you want to have, say, operation people evaluate your stuff, then a lot of other problems and a lot of overhead must be managed, must be taken into account. The data with which to test must be relevant, must be interesting for them. The questionnaire, what are we going to ask them? What questions would be most useful to us? So what aspects do we want to dig into more than others? And then the organization of the tests, and then the analysis of the results were really the most challenging part. But I also to say, probably was also the part that gave us more food for thought than others, because technology in a way can be handled easier in an easier way than user feedback. So in a way, this experience made evident to us something like, okay, you have technology, but technology is not enough without ideas, I will say. Well, certainly we learned a lot from the implementation of this use case in AI for media at different levels, not only from a point of view of the technology that we used and we tested and we evaluated, but also from the point of view of setting up something that overall had a strong relevance. So what we learned was really to look ahead, to have a strategic view on the introduction of AI in the company, and not only a technology view. That was really the most important and interesting takeaway from our experience. The future, well, difficult to say. Certainly, we will go on with the approach. So we like very much the approach that we had in the project. So we will maintain the approach. Maybe we will scale it a little bit down because the use case was very broad, maybe too much broad. And so we have to scale it a little bit down, trying to identify maybe subdomains in which to work with less time needed, with less resources spent. But certainly we want to proceed, and we want to valorize and to put everything which was done in AI for media as an asset for us. The project was great, in the sense that having 40 like members in a project was really tough, but at the same time was really interesting, because we could see all the different opinions, all the different point of views, and also new things that we didn't consider before, like, for example, all the trustworthy aspects, the ethical aspects, which are not in our core competence. But this project helped us start considering those aspects in every future AI project. So that was the, let's say, the plus side. The negative part, because there is one, is the incredible amount of overhead. So probably this one was the funded project with the higher amount of overhead overall. I think that something like a little bit less than half of our effort was spent in writing documents, making high-level analysis, writing requirements, KPIs, stuff, which I mean, I'm not saying they are not important, but we spent very, very much on those aspects, and it was a little bit a pity, because we would have liked to spend a little bit more on the technology side. I mean, that's life. That's what happens with I think with every European project. In this case, probably the dimension, the size of the project had let's say a negative impact on all these things, because from one point of view, having to manage a 40 members project, of course, brings in overhead.
You can find more information about the AI for Media project and the partners involved in this use case with the following addresses.